But can you share a little bit about the trust? Because I think you were right when you wrote to me that it is important, especially when we touch on this very subtle and nuanced inner world of sensations. Yes, and where it's hard to verify, it's hard to validate what's going on in your mind as a student. Because I had the similar questions in the past from my students, like, am I imagining strings correctly? And I was like, well, you imagine as you imagine. It's your creativity, it's your world. But as long as you know what you imagine, and as long as you know how to imagine, there could be different ways, obviously different colors. Like, for example, I actually read somewhere that green color, the same green color for every people is a little bit different. But as long as we all agree that this is green, and this is how it looks like, that's what we really want. So the trust is very important to hearing the sensations.
Yes, and moreover, is your precise algorithms and descriptions are extremely important. Because when we try to find the thing that we could trust together, that we agree, that we imagine the same thing, we need this precise guide, this description, this complete, not complete, but precise, as much as precise as possible is very important. So one side. And the second side is when you need to imagine something, you need to be alone with your own decision. It's a volitional act. For example, I just lie down on my sofa. I don't want to do anything. But then I just decide to do something and I start doing it. The action of decide to do something, make a decision, right, is very important. Mm-hmm. It's very hard. And this is when we proceed this hard creative working. Or for example, yesterday I decided to investigate harmony in Ravel music. It's a really hard harmony to understand what it is. When I try to make sense of harmony, I observe in myself that I need to decide what I want it to be.
Mm-hmm. Because when we create, there is no right and wrong. It's just the matter of we decide on something and we create. You will see this. So the third book, it is indeed only about intonation and how to develop all the nuances in our intonation. But with everything, whether it's going to be the structure of phrasing or form or choosing the right pace of the music, or like what you said even about choosing the color of the harmony, or even choosing the range of dynamics. What's forte for you is not necessarily forte for me, no? But what is important is that you make a choice, you take responsibility, and then you create, because there is no right and wrong. The only wrong thing, also thinking about from a meta perspective, in your life you can do, the only wrong thing, if you don't choose it yourself. As long as you choose it yourself, it's the right thing to do, because even if it's going to be mistake, you're going to learn from that. Because you're not going to go to blame and shame, I could have, and I should have done it, I've chosen myself, I shouldn't have listened to that another person, because you didn't live your life. So the only mistake you can make is when you make something without your creativity, without your decision. And in a more microwave it's we're applying the same principle to our piano world, little world of piano music and playing. So as long as you decide, there's no mistake. And even with phrasing, you will see later, you can choose maybe different length and contour of phrases and sentences, and it could be equally convincing from your point of view, as it could be a bit different and the same convincing from my point of view. And I remember that even when I was playing for my teachers, I heard so many phrases like, you didn't convince me. Why? Because you feel that uncertainty, you feel that energy of uncertainty from the person when he plays. You're like, I just can't grasp what he wants to say. I don't understand what he wants to say, what his message through music. And that's probably the only mistake you can make. As long as you create, and it's clear for you, that's always the right thing.
Also, I'd like to thank you for sharing what helped you in your life. I mean, Marshall Rosenberg and his nonviolent communication, and this thinking of human need. Because when we create volitional act, we also create and I want to mention this too about the book of Dmitry Oznadze I sent you yesterday. This term of settlement, установка, this term, he describes this in terms of need and situation where this need is fulfilled. When we have a need and when we can imagine the situation when this need can be fulfilled, we create this settlement, and this settlement determines the content of our conscious, content of our actions. This brings order.
Right.
It's narrow our attention to complete and fulfill this need.
Strategy.
Yes. And so we can volitionally decide what we want to play, volitionally decide the musical meaning of expressions, this type, character, and create this, I think.
Well, again, it comes to the word also choose. Because when we decide, there is some kind of indecision, there is also a choice involved that you have to kind of make. Yeah. I was on the walk another day, and I was trying to think what are the main needs from the bottom up that we have. And it's a need for water, food, shelter, sleep, power in terms of electricity protection. Then it's the need of physical movement, which we completely lost. The need of, now next important one, connection to yourself, connection to others, connection with nature and animals. So, and that part actually has, if you can imagine a tree with different branches, like connection to yourself might involve, am I doing meaningful thing? Do I feel safe and loving and kind with myself? There was also something important. Yeah, but connection with others, might involve a sense of belonging, sharing, caring, compassion, empathy, understanding. Also recognition, acknowledgement, that's an important thing, we cannot deny that. Also physical touch, all that things. And when you look at that from that perspective of all our needs, I really think that most of the time we're just giving pacifier. You know, like it's a thing when the baby is crying and, for example, he wants to eat, and mommy just give them sosочку. So that's what we get in terms of, you know, sleep, water. Yeah, so we have water, we can drink water as much as we want, that full of plastic and chloride. You know, we have food most of the time, but again, this food has mostly no nutrition. It's not a food from a garden, you know, most of the time. And all other things like physical movement, we don't have that at all. And the worst thing what happens actually is when we think or we feel that we have the need of one thing, and we try to satisfy there, when actually we have a need of another thing. Good example, the most simple example. Sometimes when I'm thirsty, I think I want to eat fruits. Sometimes I think I'm hungry, when actually I'm thirsty. On a bigger picture, for example, I'm practicing, and that, yes, okay, that satisfies maybe my need of recognition or freedom and creativity and achievement. But then at some point another need arises, and maybe it's a need of physical movement. But I don't recognize it because we're so good with recognizing what we actually feel that I continue practicing. And the more I practice, the more I go down. And I don't understand why. And then I start thinking, oh, maybe I don't like practicing. Where instead, actually, I just need to stop. Okay, that need was satisfied in these 2 hours. And go and have a 2-hour walk and listening some nice, interesting podcasts or connect with the nature. And, you know, and then I feel happy again. So, you know, that simple thing of really connection to yourself even, it doesn't exist because I think in this world of capitalism and efficiency, it's not efficient to be connected to yourself. You know, it's efficient to work hard, you know, to do what is told and to achieve things. So, yeah. It's crazy, yeah. Well, let's talk about musical speech. You had the chance to read through the book and make singing exercises. What did you get from there by yourself? Like, what is this, and why do we actually even need to develop that ability? To summarize, musical speech is one of the first steps to start developing different colors in our intonation. Okay, we talked about how even the sound imagination, whether we imagine different colors of harmony or dynamics, or even articulation, that would affect the way we intonate. But the difference between singing this way, very boring, meaning also translated right away to playing, it's gonna be a very boring playing. And this I'm not singing even with phrasing here. So this is a good example of the nuances of intonation I'm talking about. So so this obviously right away, why do we need it? First of all, to bring more expressiveness to our melodic lines. So it feels more like a speech, more like a real human speech, not like a robotic playing. Yes, I'm connecting the notes with glissando and resistance. The second thing is like what you said. If we have a leap, let's say in the left hand, we have a big jump, especially when we play least, fast tempos, go on, jumps over octaves. Most of the time, there are two reasons why we miss the note. Obviously, considering that we're making all the correct movements, usually if we, for example, not moving our elbow very fast, but also it's about the precision. Why do you hit C sharp instead of C? And that is because you didn't have a very nuanced sensation of the interval that you're intonating. Are you actually intonating the fifth or the fourth? Are you intonating sixth or seventh? And so that's why you cannot simply control your hand to follow what you imagine, what you intonate. In other words, you miss the note because that actually manifested that you missed that in your intonation. So yes, like you said, feeling that you're intonating fifth and not the sixth. Or for example, for me, I was always confusing 4 and 5. For me, it was not really clear. If you tell me, sing for me the fourth, I'll probably sing the fifth, or sometimes maybe even the third. So musical speech helps you develop a more precise sensation of each interval. And like you said, yes, the length, intervals different by the length. Of course, at the end of the day, is how different we feel the length of each interval that we intonate. And so again, just like, I don't know, with fingertips, I cannot just tell you, well, just have those sensation of good clinging fingertips, yeah? Or, I don't know, like with articulations, I cannot tell you, oh, just play shorter, or play with more effort, or, with more force, that's your accent, That's not enough. This is only the result of the initial sensation that we need to create. So, just like there, I cannot just say with musical speech, just feel each interval a little bit tense or a little bit more open. Which is, yes, at the end of the day, when we're gonna play the piece, that's what we're gonna feel. We're gonna feel some intervals more tense, some intervals more open. But a good and a natural way to develop this sensation is through initial artificial imposing of emotion to each interval. So the second is, we intonate second and seventh with which emotion? You tell me.
Pain or longing.
Okay, so this is basically a tense interval, and so instead of singing a tense, if we could just say, oh, it's asking, it's waiting, it's aching. Oh, so here we got it, right? Now the next pair is a third and a sixth, represents which emotion?
Calmness, love, and with 6 especially like romance intonation, romance.
So the third and the sixth, we're going to romantic, the world of love, romantic love. Okay, so it's romance and beauty and love. So does it sound more open than oh? Yes, it does. But again, we achieve that through the natural sensation of emotion. And the fourth, what is the fourth?
Willpower and confidence, maybe.
Right. It's energy. It's
energetic.
It's very energetic. It's like, call it a call to an action. Like when you wake up and you're like, I'm full of energy. Let's do it. Right? So, so you go. Again.
Mm-hmm.
Is it tense? Yes, it is tense. But is it the same tense as the second or seventh? Maybe not. But how would I describe it to you? I don't know. The only way is just to say it's more energetic, and that one is more aching and waiting. Okay. Then goes the fifth.
meditation, maybe spirituality a little.
So this is basically opposite to the fourth. So it's
Calmness.
very calm, very tranquil, very contemplative, meditative, still, in other words.
Still.
Yeah, so if the fourth has all the energy at once, and the fifth just grounded itself in stillness, right? Yeah, it is open. But is it as open as the romantic third and sixth? Maybe not.
I would say this more objective, if third and sixth is more subjective.
Subjective, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
The fifth is more objective.
Okay, then there is also, good. Then there is also the tritone. A tritone.
Oh, this is very interesting. It's mystery and maybe some menacing.
So it's very unstable. It feels mysterious and unstable, right? And hence maybe you felt it's more like a question because it needs to resolve. So unstable, right? Right? And so the sixth, the seventh we covered. Now unison and octave. So unison is very interesting. Unison is also an interval, and somehow you can feel that distance in the unison with resistance and glissando. So when you play, it's not just it's and then that little tension that you have in that gap. So which kind of emotion we want to express there?
This is like a dot in the end of the sentence. Confidence, like end of story. No, it's maybe rude, but yeah.
It could be, but I think when you say it, we didn't put it this way, I feel the energy goes a little bit more inwards. Like, and that's what I said. And it feels like you kind of dying with energy there, or complete. Where I feel with unison and octave, the way I describe it, it's more, that's why I say open statement. It's more outwards. It's, let's say, it's like, that king in the palace on the balcony pronounce something. And the same, So it's more outward and confident, rather completed and inwards. I mean, it could be, but again, it's worth to say here that this is a very simple structure what we just described here, and it's important to not overthink when we see, let's say, minor third or a major third, or okay, so wait, this is a minor descending third. What does it mean? How does it be different from a major ascending third, for example? Or this minor descending third is in that harmony, but what about this minor descending third in this harmony? What about this minor descending third in that harmony, in that dynamics? What if it's in the middle of the phrase, and what if it's in the end of the phrase? What if it's at the climax part? What if it's in the beginning of the part? So these things, if you go into that, you're gonna stuck there forever, okay? You're not gonna be able to say anything. So it's very important to, again, have a trust that all those elements of music will naturally affect your very simple attitude towards each interval. So for example, this is the third and you're gonna intonate with love or romance, but then when you're gonna include it in the whole system of sound imagination and harmony and dynamics and voicing, and then maybe later you're gonna go into phrasing and musical image and musical form and some confidence over there as well, and then also even more objective and meditative state of all of this will complete that initial third that you conceive in your mind. And it will naturally bring up all the different nuances of that third But it has to go naturally, in a natural way, not through the intellectual way. You don't have to overanalyze and figure it out. So there has to be trust. Anyway, it's also worth to say again that this exercise of singing each interval and initially playing each interval with a great sense of emotional differentiation, it's only for initial development of nuanced intonation. Eventually, when you play, you don't really think about it. You don't change the emotion with every interval. Or what will be left is the sensation of this is more tense, this is more open, this is more tense in a deeper way maybe, and this is more open in a more objective way, like you said. And that will be initially integrated with all other musical means of expression, with all other elements. Also, musical speech somehow really helps with phrasing, which we'll talk about next lesson. And in the phrasing, we will talk about how to lead, let's say, a motif to the main interval. And when you somehow know that I'm going to the second, my whole speech, the goal, the main meaning of my whole speech is going to be that second. The whole thing leads to that second. When you feel that emotionally rather than a second, or not even understanding that it leads to a second at all, just doing the interval at the end, that makes a whole difference in phrasing. That makes your phrasing even more closer to human speech. And it is somehow also easier to feel the energetic crescendo in your phrasing. So, I hope that clarifies. So it's basically for a better feeling or for more expressive playing and for more accurate playing in terms of technique when you need to play big leaps, big jumps. I would like to check how you sing each interval. All right, up and down. Let's go.
Okay. Tense, longing, asking,
waiting,
aching.
asking. And maybe right away you can sing the pair. You can sing the seventh as well.
Okay.
Good. I like your facial expression. Hands up.
That's unnatural. It's unnatural.
I know.
Oh, no, it's natural, yes.
Yeah,
not controllable.
It's a nature, yes. Okay, third and sixth. Remember about all the sound movements.
I would say when you said remember sound movements, my state broken. Broken. Yes. No, it's not. Just yes, this sound movement technique, this is automation. This is like what we had already need to have in ourselves. Mm-hmm. Like we grasp it. We think about the state, okay?
The fourth. Could be a bit more energy there. Just don't be afraid. Just give it all. And remember what's written here. The slower and more evenly you sing with glissando resistant, the more space you have to express emotion. So this actually thing will be present for the whole entire book 3, because we want to express so much in that portal between the notes. So the slower and more resistance you have, the more things will come through. So when you obviously sing, don't confuse energy for speed, right? You can still sing slow, but express more. Okay, show me Tritone.
Somehow I'm starting to sing quiet dynamic changes.
Yeah, it might be. Obviously, when you sing the fourth or the octave, it's gonna go much brighter. Right?
Let's go on the intonation layer, just intonation layer without state, and then
okay.
compare when compare
Yeah, that's a good one.
what it would look like. Only intonation. Now with the state.
And so this is a very good example of what I call develop nuances in your intonation, nuances of singing in your intonation. You felt the difference.
I really feel action inside myself, like I give a trust to my ability to intonate. It does automatic work. And I constantly think about the state. I am the state, and the technique is doing the job for me.
That was a very good example. So you don't really think about how to intonate anymore. That's not your primary goal anymore. It's there. Yeah. Just like at the end of the very system when, for example, we're gonna play, I mean, you will think about the choosing correct tempo and pace and understanding where you are in terms of forms, musical form, and choosing the right mood, and also maybe even going even more higher and kind of really going into a stage of creativity and just being completely objective when you play and just create from, higher self, whatever, channeling music. But when you do that, you don't think about the wrist or elbow motion. You don't think even much about sound imagination, how to intonate or what is unweight. You see, you only think about those things and the rest just align.
Intonation only.
Okay. I can tell right away already what you will need to develop during book 3. You're very nice and sensitive, but you're missing fire in your character. And as an artist, even if you're missing it as a person, you have to develop it. So that was missing in energetic fourth, that was missing in confident octave. We can practice and try right now again. So you repeat after me, but you have to be more impulsive there, okay? Just be more angry. All right, so let's basically you need to practice fourth and octave more. So let's do it first. First energetic octave. Fourth, sorry, yeah. On the other side of fear, there are always more exciting discoveries. So let's overcome that fear of just let go, just go faster with your energy. Imagine that you need to sing with much faster outwards energy. Imagine that you need to sing that 100 meters in front of you, the person would hear you, yeah? Would get your message. I'm ready for day. Let's do it. You can even start saying that phrase first. Let's go into just saying the phrase. Forget about singing. A friend is just coming over all of a sudden and say, "Hey Vid, let's go for this amazing trip. Everything is paid. We're going tonight. Are you ready?" And you're like, "Yeah, let's do it." This like instantaneous yes. By the way, when I ask you just to sing a phrase, I'm not playing around. It's important just to see can you actually say a phrase with the right energy before you go to sing, before you go to play? So let's say for example, yes, I'm ready, let's do it.
Yes, I'm ready, let's do it. I'm ready, let's do it.
Okay. It's so nice. You can like go like inwards and just like, please, you know, like I'm just trying to be nice, you know. So, but these things is something that the challenge you need to overcome if you ever want to play on stage. So just develop it because it's the right thing to do, okay? So just at home right now we're not gonna do that. I'm gonna leave you alone. I'm not gonna put you in a place where you're observed, okay? But at home just start with just simple phrases like, yes, I'm ready. Let's do some walk today, or I just feel great today. like, I want to just create something nice, or I don't know. I'm just so full of energy, you know. So you need to remember that feeling naturally, and then you copy and paste that feeling in that fourth. And now another thing that I want to practice is the octave, and I believe the unison will suffer as well the same way. So. Now, the difference with octave is that now you can imagine, that's easy. Go to Soviet Union poets and remember how they would recite. Ta-da-da, ta-da, ta-da-da-da, ta-da-da-da, ta-da, ta-da, ta-da.
Mayakovsky.
Exactly. Imagine that big Mayakovsky with this, you know, gestures and everything. So, that's your octave, right? Again, bring up the memory of emotion. Oh, oh, oh. Yeah.
I really feel a little detached. Now I recognized. So it's like really exercising a professional skill. It's like you are able to create this energy, like this is something you do.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, it's not something that you are, but it's something that you do. You have a lot of lyricism, lyric. You're very lyrический. So it's nice, it's beautiful. So that means that beautiful music that you're gonna play, beautiful Chopin, you're gonna touch people's heart, that's great. But you gotta play something more than that. And for that, you cannot play it in the same lyric way. So you have to develop a different energy in yourself. You have to cultivate that. You know, so bring some Soviet Union to your beautiful Russia. Kind of, you have to have this mixture, you know.
To be complete.
Mm-hmm. Yes, you do. You need to have both to be an artist. Yes. So work on that.
This is one more thing to really expand my skill set. It's like it's like with dynamics exercise. It's so unusual. It was so unusual to play with this dynamics with volume. So unusual.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. And of
for
course,
this opportunity.
Of course, and I'm sure you will do great to the next lesson. I'm gonna check. The next thing is when we play, and of course, can you tell me how musical speech would affect our playing? What is the natural way? I don't know how to explain. Yeah, like what affects what in that chain of things. So when you sing with this different sensation in your vocal cords, when you sing the third or the fourth, what happens if you sing that way while playing?
Your intonation becomes more nuanced. You play more expressive.
Alright, so
you play like you sing.
But why? So we know the mechanics behind it. So we know in book 1 we learned that through intonation, through what we feel here, we affect how we move there. And so again, if there is slightly something that is slightly different and change and nuance and expressive, that means that when we're gonna touch the key, we're gonna touch it with a little different dynamics and time. And these are the only two things that affect our playing. So that third, when you're gonna sing third, or when you're gonna sing fourth, remember that you even said when you were singing like the Tritone, you sang a little bit more soft, and sometimes some intervals you were singing a little bit faster. So the same way, the third you will approach. You can't even calculate. You can't even say slower. It's not slower. It's in a different realm, slower, right? But that third you will approach differently than when you approach the fourth. And again, all of this will be controlled through intonation, through the ligaments and muscles of fingers here. So
this is like we discussed about the effect of sound imagination on intonation. So we imagine and nuances in intonation changes. Mm-hmm. Something changes in muscular tonus, and these nuances cannot be calculated because they are unconscious. It's something that goes automatic.
Very subtle, yes, very subtle.
Subtle, yeah.
That's a very good example. So this is just another thing that influenced our intonation, musical speech. I mean, every single thing at the end of the day influences intonation. Interesting.
Our energy is limited. What I mean, our attention is limited. So when we not have an order in our technique, if we still have to use our attention to control it, if we still need to use our attention to control the parts of technique, we have the energy leak. For example, I can speak with you and at the same time I can do mathematical equations like 2 plus 2 equals 4 at the same time, because it's simple task. But if I start to do more some integral equations or something more difficult, I will stop. My energy will limit because it's so complicated task. And even hand movements, even elbow motions, singing, in itself it's so complicated task, so we have to learn how to make it simple as 2 plus 2. So enable to do thinking about state, and at the same time having enough energy to think about to guide your energy only on state, and other tasks are so simple for you because you already know how to make them. You already know how to make 2 plus 2.
Yeah, in the book I think I call it unload your mind. Unload.
Yeah,
so you have space because,
Thank you.
Yes, that's why it's so important to simplify and with practice, everything with practice, with anything, even with language, whatever you learn, it just feels like it becomes smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller and easier and easier and easier and easier. And here you are, And that's what you need to do with every musical mean of expression that you study in the system. Compact it. It's like imagine that you're packing for a trip, you have a suitcase with limited space, right? And so you probably, and those things now you can buy, those like a plastic storage thing, and then you put your clothes there, and then with the vacuum you just suck the air, and so instead of this amount it becomes just this amount, and basically that's what practice and repetition would do with anything you learn. And so when you put this amount in your limited space of suitcase, now you can put a new thing. Yeah.
Yes, but also it becomes smaller not just because you're compressing it, but because you find for yourself the way how to execute those tasks with with lower amount of energy, like rationalization of task.
Aha, exactly. Yes. So, I mean, the size is equal to the size of energy that you input into the thing. Exactly.